Discover the divine truth. Did God create evil? Unveiling miraculous insights from Scripture. In the land of Uz, during the days of Jehoiakim, there lived a man named Job, blameless and upright, fearing God and shunning evil. His wealth was immense, his flocks and herds beyond counting, his household a testament to God's favor. Each day began with reverent offerings made for his children, for Job carried the weight of parental responsibility, determined to shield them from the perils of sin. With unwavering faith, he embraced his role as a loving father and faithful servant of the Lord, seeking divine wisdom amidst the rugged terrain that surrounded him. The air in Uz was vibrant with the sound of feasting and prayer. Villagers gathered to celebrate the harvest, their laughter mingling with the echoes of devotion. But beneath the surface of joy, an undercurrent of spiritual tension lurked, a challenge to the faithful, a test of divine intentions. The rituals upheld within his home echoed the holiness Job embodied. The sacrifices burned with prayer were a fragrant offering, an expression of gratitude towards the Almighty. But one fateful day, while Job conversed with his trusted men, the calm veil of his existence was ripped apart. A messenger arrived, breathless, shattering the serenity with dreadful news. Raiders had swept away his oxen and donkeys. Even as the weight of this devastation settled, another messenger rushed forth, proclaiming that heavenly fire had consumed the sheep. Each calamity struck like a dagger to his heart until the final blow landed, the loss of his children, taken by a fierce wind, thrusting Job into depths of despair. His cries rang out, raw and anguished, questioning the very nature of God's goodness. Had he not been faithful? Had he not lived righteously? As Job sat among ashes, his spirit crushed, three friends arrived with the intention of offering solace. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar brought with them a heavy discourse of retribution, wrestling with the fallen state of Job's affliction. Their speeches spiraled into accusations, insisting he must harbor sin to deserve such punishment. Job's defense intensified, as he contended with their beliefs, insisting on his integrity. Shadows danced around them as they debated, a testament to the unresolved struggle between divine justice and Job's earthly suffering. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful stories from Scripture. Hit the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share it with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed by how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the depths of Job's grief, the atmosphere thickened, and a tempest began to brew on the horizon. A storm surged as God's voice emerged from the whirlwind, demanding Job's attention. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations?" the Lord questioned, stirring awe and reverence. The majestic power of creation was revealed through divine inquiry, unraveling Job's understanding of earthly suffering against the backdrop of divine astronomy. It was a moment that solidified the miraculous interplay of faith and trial, leaving mysteries lingering in the hearts of those who dared to wrestle with the profound complexities of suffering under a sovereign God. Then the Lord continued to speak, challenging Job with words of profound majesty. "Have you ever commanded the morning to appear or guided the dawn to its place?" With each rhetorical question, the foundations of Job's understanding trembled, and he began to grasp the infinite wisdom that governed the universe, far beyond the scope of human sorrow. "Tell me, Job," the Lord thundered. "Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons or lead out the bear with its cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth?" As these inquiries flowed like a divine river, Job's heart swelled with a mix of fear and awe. The magnitude of God's control became overwhelmingly clear, and in that moment of confrontation, his own limitations shone glaringly. Job was brought to the edge of his understanding, where humility and reverence took root. "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge?" God penetratingly asked. Job found himself silenced, trembling in the presence of the Almighty, realizing that his questioning had cast shadows where understanding could not reach. In the stillness that followed, Job's heart whispered a prayer of contrition. "I spoke of things I did not understand, too wonderful for me to know. Deep within his core, a realization dawned: man's comprehension of divine purpose is frail, and in the depths of suffering, God's hand is sovereign. Turning to the witnesses gathered, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, the Lord proclaimed his authority: "Hear now my answer, and I will speak. I will question you, and you shall answer me." Each friend stood in awed silence, for they recognized that the words of the Almighty shattered their preconceptions and strength of argument, yet the friends were unaware of what lay beyond this revelation, a divine purpose entwined through their own actions. They had sought to defend God's honor using their wisdom, but in so doing, they risked missing the profound depth of grace that was unfolding before them. "Prepare yourself like a man, I will question you, and you shall respond to me," the Lord commanded further, challenging their hearts to confront the truth of their misunderstandings. As the wind howled, a solemn darkness surrounded them, and each man felt the weight of divine examination. Mystery hung in the air, thick and sacred, as they would soon confront the consequences of their rhetoric. Now illuminated by the light of God's character, Job, silenced by the majesty of the Lord, anticipated an answer to his turmoil. Would his suffering bear witness to a greater narrative hidden in the folds of divine intent? Would grace and mercy unfold from the ashes of despair? And there lay the question for all who dare to wrestle with trials. In the face of God's powerful revelations, they felt the tremors of a deeper truth, a truth that would echo through eternity, culminating in a promise yet to be unveiled. For from this encounter, a sovereign plan was emerging, like a spring after a long winter. What restorative wonder might God weave from these threads of anguish? Job awaited divine wisdom, not knowing that this mystery held within it the greatest revelation of all. God's faithfulness would ultimately shine brighter, and through suffering, his glory would ignite an eternally unfolding story of redemption. "Gird up your loins like a man," the Lord commanded, his voice reverberating through the heavens and shaking the earth beneath. Each word carried the weight of majestic authority as the air grew thick with divine expectation. Job, trembling in sheer awe, prepared himself for the inquiry of the Almighty, knowing that every question would peel back layers of his heart and reveal forgotten depths. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you possess understanding," the Lord continued, each syllable heavy with profound significance. "Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy?" Job, whose heart had once burned with questions, now stood speechless, a mere mortal confronted by the Creator of all. The vastness of God's creation seeped into his soul, unraveling his grievances and revealing the utter inadequacy of human wisdom in the face of divine sovereignty. "Have you commanded the ocean, Job?" The Lord pressed on, "when it bursts forth, like a child from the womb, have you set its bounds and said, here shall your proud waves stop?" Job envisioned the tumultuous seas, their depths beyond human grasp, each wave a testament to God's control over chaos. "Have you ever walked in the recesses of the deep or seen the gates of the shadow of death?" God's voice thundered, weaving imagery of mystery as Job was shown the true essence of creation's power, magnificently held in the palms of the Almighty. As each question resonated, Job felt his ache and despair begin to dissipate. He realized that every struggle bore witness to the grandeur of God's design, which was as unfathomable as the very depths of the sea. "Do you know the storerooms of the snow or the treasury of hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble?" The Lord revealed the celestial storehouses, where even the elements awaited his command. "Have you seen the paths of the lightning or the place where the winds are born?" The images inspired awe. As Job pondered the mechanisms of creation that he had never considered, his heart began to stir with a renewed understanding. The Lord continued to unveil the mystery of nature, assuring Job that all creation bowed to his will, that every deed of man and every epistle of the heavens were infused with God's purpose. "Who provides for the raven when its young cry to God, wandering about for food?" As this rhetorical question settled in Job's heart, he began to grasp the intricate care that God extends to all his creatures, a reminder that divine provision is woven into the fabric of life itself. In a moment of vulnerability, Job realized, if even the lowly raven did not go unheard, then surely he, too, held a place within God's infinite compassion. Thus, the weight of his sufferings began to shift. Through each inquiry, God's divine nature shone, illuminating Job's path toward understanding his trials. The threads of God's sovereignty intertwined through the tapestry of his life, beckoning Job to trust in the greater narrative continually unfolding. With a heart aligned to the sacred truths, Job awaited the culmination of God's plan. He understood now that even in his deepest pain, he stood at the brink of a revelation beyond comprehension, waiting for the moment when God's will would manifest in glory. What profound mysteries might yet be revealed from divine perspective, and how would Job's fidelity in suffering lead to the unveiling of a promise of restoration? For already, the shadows hinted at transformation. God's glory poised to shine through the brokenness, igniting hope in the hearts of all who trust in his sovereign mercy. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow? Or have you seen the storehouses of the hail? The Lord continued, his voice resonating like thunder across the expanse. Job stood enveloped in silence, each question from the Almighty etching a deeper understanding into the fabric of his soul. From what source comes the freezing of the heavens? Who birthed the frost from the sky? The intonation of God's questions echoed in Job's heart, revealing the majesty of God's governance over even the most minute details of creation. Job's soul stirred in reverence as he envisioned a world meticulously crafted, every season ordered by God's will. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? The Lord inquired, inviting Job to confront the celestial wonders that gleamed like jewels against the dark firmament. Each constellation was a testament to God's creative power, a reminder of his sovereignty over the expanse of the universe. A renewed desire for understanding surged within Job. His grief began to seem insignificant against the backdrop of such grandeur, yet still he felt the ache of his unanswered pain. Do you know the ordinances of heaven? Can you establish their rule over the earth? The questions rolled forth with a divine cadence, weaving a profound tapestry of purpose that linked earth to heaven. In the midst of his anguish, Job felt a stirring within him, the longing for fullness, the hope of revelation. He recalled the moments of laughter shared with his children, the joy of blessings once abounding, now reduced to a memory in the shadow of his trials. Yet here, as the Almighty continued to speak, a flicker of light ignited in his heart. Who can lift up their voice to the clouds, that a flood of waters may cover you? God's challenge coursed through the air, as images of overflowing blessings began to unfold in Job's mind. The heavens, the very embodiment of promise, held the capacity to pour upon his children gracious gifts. Job longed to respond, yet the reverence he felt rendered him mute. He found himself not in defiance, but in deep contemplation of the great unfolding divine plan. He glimpsed perhaps for the first time the intricate relationship between suffering and divine purpose. Will you discredit my justice? Will you condemn me to justify yourself? The Lord posed a question that cut straight to the core of Job's struggle. Job's heart sank under the weight of it. He held within him both the burden of his pain and the understanding of the justice that ensures all is woven into God's ultimate righteousness. As Job grappled with the layers of these divine inquiries, he sensed that he stood on holy ground. Within the tension of his suffering, God's voice echoed like the rolling seas, tempestuous yet tender, a source of strength and a reminder that he was not abandoned in his trials. I know that you can do all things, no purpose of yours can be thwarted, Job finally spoke, drawing forth a whisper of truth from within his depths. That declaration formed a bridge between his despair and the hope of restoration, a hope that was slowly taking shape, akin to dawn breaking upon the horizon. Still, the questions lingered, rich with the promise of more. What is the fullness of your plan, O Lord? What shall you reveal as this tapestry you weave comes to completion? In the midst of Job's heartache, the unfolding narrative of divine providence awaited, promising to unveil not just resolution but transformation, revealing the unshakable faithfulness of God, beguiling them into an understanding of love that conquers even the darkest depths of despair. Thus, with a heart poised in anticipation, Job awaited not only understanding but the miraculous workings of God's sovereign plan, ever revealing yet profound, leading him into a truth that could redefine not only his suffering but all creation itself, forever entwined in his divine narrative. Will you put me in the wrong? Will you condemn me that you may be justified? The Lord's voice rang out again, a poignant challenge wrapped in divine purpose. Job trembled at the weight of these questions, feeling the gravity of his human limitations against the vastness of God's omniscience. As waves of realization washed over him, Job's heart ached with both sorrow and yearning. He contemplated the hearts of men, burdened with desires both noble and base, and yet he remained steadfast in his longing for a glimpse of God's higher ways. How could any mortal fully comprehend the paths that the Almighty had laid? Have you an arm like God, and can you thunder with a voice like His? The Lord continued, his questions piercing the heart of ignorance. Job envisioned the thundering presence of the Creator, a force that stirred storms and calmed seas, who shaped the destinies of nations with the sweep of his hand. The enormity of such power stirred a reverence deep within Job, and he pondered his own frailty. Adorn yourself with majesty and splendor, clothe yourself with glory and honor. Pour out the overflowings of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud and abase him, the Lord instructed. These words resonated with a clarity that transcended mere inquiry. They called for Job to confront the pride of man and the justice of God. The proud shall be humbled, Job murmured, silently reflecting on his friend's words. Their beliefs quilted with arrogance as they sought to explain his suffering. The complexity of his world unfolded before him, a tapestry bewitched with pride, pain, and the presence of God. Look at Behemoth, which I made as I made you, he eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, and his power is in the muscles of his belly. God revealed a creature of unmatched strength, weaving it into a metaphor of divine authority. Job's vision of creation expanded as he grasped the connection between all life and the divine hand that sustained them. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook, or press down his tongue with a cord? The inquiry ignited images of fierce power, a creature beyond the comprehension of man's might. Job felt as if he were peering into the abyss of creation, realizing how small he was in comparison. Job's heart leaped with humility, wrestling with the intimacy of divine knowledge that broke through his despair. I know that you can do all things, he recalled, his conviction deepening in the shadow of the Almighty. The divine responses enveloped him like the unfathomable depths of the ocean, filled with mystery and truth, daring him to dive into understanding. That in this unfolding moment, divine revelation surged, promising that his suffering was intricately linked to a broader purpose. What greater plan do you hold, O Lord? Job pondered, wrestling with faith in the midst of anguish. But with the dawning realization of divine purpose came an unsettling mystery. There remained yet an unspoken truth of profound significance. How shall I reconcile my grief with your sovereign design? His thoughts meandered through the mosaic of his trials, drawing a link between the present hardship and the greater narrative woven by God's hand. As the heavens remained silent, the weight of the anticipation loomed. What glory awaited him, hidden within the severe yet gentle hand of God? Would he, in due time, see the restoration of all things, and how they converged upon the merciful beckoning of the Lord's heart? As Job lay in deep contemplation, there hung a question that flickered with hope. Will you reveal to me the fullness of your plan, woven through the threads of my suffering? And in that sacred space of waiting and yearning, the thread of divine story awaited its climax, laden with promises of restoration yet to unfold. A divine hook unveiling not only the depth of Job's pain but the eternal wisdom of God's sovereign will. Who has first given to me, that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine, the Lord proclaimed with authority, his words reverberating through the chambers of Job's heart. In this revelation, Job was enveloped by a profound understanding of the Creator's domain over all existence, as he considered the weighty truth that nothing can emerge outside of God's sovereign will. Oh, how small I am! Job cried out in the depths of his anguish. The realization gripped his soul, threading a tapestry of humility through his very being. Though his spirit was heavy, he felt a flicker of light piercing through the shadows of despair. It was within the specter of his suffering that Job was drawn into the yearning for deeper understanding, and he voiced, "Teach me, O Lord, what is hidden in this darkness. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars, and spreads his wings toward the south?" God continued, illuminating the depths of creation's mysteries. Job envisioned the swift flight of the hawk and marveled at the wisdom of God's design in all creatures. The wind carries the storm, the sea is bounded by my commands. Each expression resonated in Job's heart, provoking awe and reflection on the intricate authority of the Lord over natural order. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? These words invoked celestial imagery, as Job's eyes turned toward the heavens. The vast expanse of the stars became a reminder of God's infinite power and knowledge. How could he, a mere mortal, presume to challenge the wisdom of one who fashioned the heavens? As the divine discourse unfolded, Job wrestled with the connections between creation, suffering, and divine orchestration. In my calamity, show me your face, O Lord, he whispered, echoing the desire for an encounter with the living God amidst the trials that consumed him. His words resonated through the darkness, hungering for reconciliation amidst affliction. For I am but dust and ashes, Job lamented, realizing that his existence was a fragile moment in the grand tapestry of God's plan. He felt the weight of his questions press upon him anew, yet accompanied by a sense of reverence that propelled him deeper into the mystery of the Almighty. Let my heart be open to your wisdom, Lord. Will you condemn me that you may be justified? Echoed once more within him, a query that began to soften Job's heart and redefine his perspective on suffering. The scales began to shift. He perceived God not only as the unmovable rock against which he struggled but as the compassionate weaver of life's trials. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God, he murmured, understanding in the stillness a profound truth. It was not merely about his own plight but about the greater story that God was unfolding. Each hardship, each moment of despair was not devoid of purpose, but rather another thread woven into the intricate design of the cosmos. As he dwelled in the presence of his Creator, the vastness of God's love and sovereign grace enveloped him. Job's lament transformed into a cry of longing, O Lord, reveal your glory. Show me how my pain speaks to your eternal story. In that moment of divine connection, he saw the flickering flames of hope rekindling behind the veil of suffering. The shadows of despair began to yield, giving way to the undeniable truth of God's goodness interwoven with trial. Job sensed the hope that something magnificent awaited at the end of this tumultuous journey, and as God held the orchestration of all creation and the fabric of Job's trials, a new question loomed in the silence. What miraculous dawn lies ahead when the final threads of suffering are drawn together in your sovereign plan? The echo of anticipation swirled through Job's heart, setting the stage for the revelation yet to come, a glimpse of restoration promised after the tempest, hidden within the depths of enduring faith and divine mystery. Then the Lord spoke again to Job, shrouded in clouds and thunder, as he had before, yet this time his words carried the weight of gentle revelation. Job, brace yourself like a man, I will question you, and you shall answer me. The earth seemed to hold its breath, and every creature paused in reverent anticipation for what the Almighty would unveil. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? The imagery of creation, so profound and divine, painted itself before Job's eyes, each word igniting awe within his spirit. He felt the enormity of God's craftsmanship enveloping him, and the very ground beneath him seemed to whisper the secrets of the universe. As he listened, Job's heart trembled, and he could not answer. The vastness of creation brought forth waves of humility, erasing all thoughts of his own wisdom. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, too wonderful for me to know, he murmured, for he realized how deep and unfathomable the truths of God surpass any human intellect. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place? God's questions flowed like the river of time, sweeping over Job, compelling him to reflect on the divine orchestration that governed every moment in existence. The daybreak carried its light in obedience to the sovereign, and stars danced across the heavens at his command. Shadows of doubt began to recede as Job surrendered to the majesty surrounding him. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? The Lord continued, each inquiry steeped in the spirit of revelation. Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? These words struck Job like an arrow, piercing through the veil of his suffering. He stood confronted not simply with his pain but with the profound reality of life and death, both held in God's hands. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spreads his wings toward the south? The mention of the hawk brought memories of divinely crafted creation soaring above Job's burdens, a reminder that his suffering was but a moment in the expanse of eternity. Finally, Job spoke, his voice trembling yet steady, "I know that you can do all things, no purpose of yours can be thwarted." He felt the waves of breaking understanding wash over him, recognizing that even in his anguish, he remained firmly within God's fold, where every sorrow finds meaning. The Lord asked, "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge?" Job trembled again, but this time he reflected, realizing that through every lamentation, he was being drawn back into God's eternal rhythm. In a moment of divine tenderness, God offered a glimpse beyond the veil. "Taking note of my suffering is also part of my design. Do you not see how your trials mirror the trials of the world? Yet, in these trials, I am preparing a greater weight of glory." Job's heart quickened as he began to grasp the truth layered upon this revelation. If his plight held purpose, perhaps it linked him to a greater narrative unraveling throughout eternity. Each suffering could gather together to tell the stories of redemption, shadows transformed into light, leading to the promise of restoration. "O Lord," Job exclaimed, with tears mingling with the dust on his face, "your ways are higher than my ways. Reveal to me more of your truth, that I might stand ready as a testament to your glory." And in that divine moment, the air thickened with possibility, as if the heavens conspired to unveil what Job yet could not see. The whisper of God's sovereign plan echoed within him, and as he waited, both eager and fearful, he knew dawn awaited beyond the horizon. "Yet what is it that you desire to unveil next in this grand tapestry?" Job pondered, for he felt the pull of God's greater purpose weaving intricately through his pain, revealing the beauty that lay ahead and open. Chapter waiting to unfold in the heart of his trials, leading to a moment where the entire cosmos would echo, "Behold, I am making all things new." Then the Lord continued to speak, his voice like rolling thunder yet tender as a whisper, "Indeed, there is more to uncover, Job. Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare, if you know it all." The Lord's questions deepened, pulling Job into the very heart of creation's mysteries. "What is the way to the dwelling of light, and where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory and that you may discern the paths to its home? You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great." As these words washed over Job, gravity filled his heart. He felt the weight of God's profound inquiry, a reminder that in his own suffering, he had sought to grasp the limitless wisdom of the Almighty. He could only bow lower, overwhelmed by the enormity of the divine presence standing before him. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season, or can you guide the bear with its children? Each celestial name echoed through the heavens, and Job's heart trembled. He saw himself as but a shadow upon the face of the earth, an insignificant part in a grand tapestry woven by God's hand. Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you set their dominion over the earth? The air around Job vibrated with the truth that God held the universe and all its stars in mastery, orchestrating day and night with purposeful precision. Job's struggle traced the edges of his understanding, yet in this moment, he began to perceive the beauty hidden within his tribulations. "Will you discredit my justice? Will you condemn me to justify yourself?" The Lord's voice deepened, as if each word fortified the very foundations of righteousness. Job felt the accusations lift, and the burden of despair began to ease with each inquiry, replaced by an awakening to the profound depth of God's character. "I know that your wisdom exceeds all understanding, O Lord. Forgive my earthly questions." Job cried out, his spirit rising within the flood of revelation. He was granted clarity that although he was small, made in the image of the Creator, his pain was woven into the very heart of redemption's story. In the depths of his soul, he began to sense the intertwining of God's grace through every suffering. "The darkness is not against you, nor the trials that weigh down my spirit. You are in the shadows, illuminating the path to greater understanding." The Lord responded, "In your pain, do not forget that I am weaving a narrative through the lives of the righteous, igniting them with the fiery trials so they might shine forth as witnesses to my glory." Job pondered the implications of God's words. Each confrontation with despair felt less like punishment and more like preparation for a deeper trust, for standing as a testimony to the world of God's faithfulness. Can you imagine what awaits those who endure to the end, Job? The Lord's emphasis echoed through Job's heart, a promise laced with hope. For the heavens declare my glory, and the earth is filled with my steadfast love, even when they walk through the valley. And so Job began to grasp the profound beauty and purpose hidden within the tapestry of his trials. They were not in vain. His heart kindled with a renewed fire. What he had endured was a pathway guiding others toward a revelation of God, unveiling truths that stretched as far as the heavens themselves. Lord, every trembling leaf bears witness to your might. Job declared in awe. As I suffer, let my life to be your voice among the nations. The Lord's responses filled the air thick with purpose, culminating in a promise that dappled Job's heart with hope. But I tell you this, Job, your story is not isolated. A glorious end awaits for those who seek and trust in me amidst their darkness. Thus, throughout the heavens and the earth, in every prayer uttered and every tear shed, there whispered the promise of redemption, leading to a fulfillment yet unseen. In the distance, beyond the realm of comprehension, heavenly winds carried a refrain of divine orchestration, hinting of a time when all creation would be renewed, beckoning the faithful toward eternity's dawn. Behold, the time approaches, for in every trial lies the key to the hope of resurrection. Then the Lord said to Job, Stand up like a man, I will question you, and you shall answer me. His voice reverberated through the stillness, demanding a response from the depths of Job's soul. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? Upon what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? The questions poured forth like the rushing water of a mighty river, each one an assertion of the Creator's unmatched authority. The cosmos echoed with the weight of God's inquiries, and Job felt as though he were an ant upon the great expanse of creation. Lord, I am but dust and ashes. How can I know the mind of the Eternal? He cried, his voice trembling with humility. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place? The Lord continued, painting the grandeur of the daybreak, as light burst forth into the darkness, scattering shadows by his will. Job remained silent, struck by the magnificence of God's artistry and the intricate design of the world that unfolded with each rising sun. Have you entered the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of the shadow of death? The sound of these profound mysteries sent a shiver through Job. With each question, he felt his finitude in contrast to the infinite splendor of the Eternal One. That the Lord taunted, Where is the way to the dwelling of light, and where is the place of darkness? That you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home. Job's mind was overwhelmed with awe. In his heart, he realized that he had sought understanding, yet here before him was the very embodiment of wisdom. Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, Here we are? The Almighty's word struck like lightning, boldly illuminating the night sky, a display of divine power that no human could replicate. That eye and the staggering silence that followed the Lord's proclamations, Job surrendered his heart. O Lord, I have spoken of things I did not understand, too wonderful for me, which I did not know. He fell to his knees, the weight of the questions drawing him into a posture of worship. The Lord then asked, Shall the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? He who rebukes God, let him answer it. Job, paralyzed by the enormity of the challenge, could only reply, I am unworthy, how can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. And thus it was that in the stillness, a profound truth began to take root within him. The Lord continued, I will put my hand upon your shoulder, Job, I am here even in your suffering. In these trials, I am forming you, and through your pain, I will reveal my plan to the world. For there is an appointed time for every purpose under heaven, beloved Job. As the clouds of understanding began to descend upon him, Job sensed that the story being woven was much greater than his personal trials. It transcended pain, leading to restoration and ultimately, the revelation of a covenant promise. Prepare yourself, for all I have called forth must be revealed. The tapestry is not yet complete, but behold, your endurance will lead to a testimony that shall echo through generations. The Lord's voice resonated with hope and finality, a reminder that all things work together for good to those who love him. With each word, Job grasped a deeper mystery of faith, one that entwined his suffering into God's greater narrative. Your plan, O Lord, encompasses all. Let my tribulation sing of your glory. Thus, as the heavens opened above him, Job understood that beyond every shadow lay a light of hope, one that promised redemption not only for him but for all creation. And in this moment, he realized the divine orchestration of history was yet unfolding. The time shall come, the Lord spoke softly, when the fullness of my glory will be revealed, and every tear shall be dried. Amidst the continued stirring of the whirlwind, Job sat in contemplative silence, held captive by the weight of the divine revelations intertwined with his suffering. The air hummed with a profound expectancy, as if creation itself recognized that a greater narrative was at play. After the Lord spoke, a deep stillness enveloped the landscape, drawing Job's heart inward toward an ever-growing desire for understanding. Behold, Job, the Lord resumed, his voice ringing out like the deepest of clarion calls. Look at the magnificent workings of my creation, the intricate threads woven into the very fabric of existence. Consider the swift mover, the deer upon the mountains, how agile and graceful it runs away from hunters. Did I not cause its heart to beat, its legs to strengthen, that it may escape danger? Job envisioned the wild deer darting through the thickets, a living testament to God's provision. Each image prompted a reflection in his heart: if the deer, by God's design, had inherent freedom and safety, could he not also trust that there was a divine purpose weaving throughout his own tribulations? And what of the raven? The Lord continued. When it cries to its Creator, is it not heard? Its hunger is met not by mere happenstance, but by the same hand that feeds the stars. Do you suppose that I overlook the suffering of my own? The thought pierced Job with a sense of awe and acknowledgement of God's sovereign care over his creation. In this moment, Job found himself confronted not just with the enormity of God's power, but with the depth of his compassion. Yes, Lord, I see, he whispered, his heart softening under the weight of his losses even as he struggled to bear the depth of understanding. Job, know this: my plans are beyond your sight, yet they are woven with your longing and pain. Each thread of suffering holds potential, a seed waiting to sprout in the soil of hope, God declared, allowing a fresh wave of peace to wash over Job's despair. Can you bring forth the morning's light, or command the storm clouds? Can you sustain the earth's foundation? God continued, gently guiding Job to sit in reverence of the unknowable. You are finite, yet through you I bring testimony of my infinite wisdom. Shall your earthly understanding challenge my divine orchestration? With his spirit stirred, Job wrestled with these contemplations. The beauty of God's questions began to unfurl in his mind, transforming his doubts into inquiries deepened by faith. Lord, he breathed, I see that each question you pose is an invitation to rise above my limitations. Teach me to grasp the greater plan through which all creation rejoices. Thus encouraged, the Almighty pressed on, revealing glimpses of redemption intertwined within the grasp of suffering. Do you see, Job? I have written a story stamped with grace upon the hearts of those who endure. For even in the depths of trial, I am crafting restoration, not just for you, but for all humanity. Each revelation struck chords of truth within Job, awakening a transforming understanding that suffering, rather than standing in opposition to God's goodness, became a vessel through which his glory could shine brighter amidst darkness. Your journey, my faithful servant, is not only for your understanding but for a world that waits in eager anticipation of hope restored. God spoke, his tone imbued with an urgency that pierced through Job's silence. How incredible, O Lord, that my pain could bear witness to your glory! Job exclaimed, finally finding a reservoir of strength and renewed hope surging within his heart. Your faith will echo through the ages, the Lord assured him, and your perseverance shall inspire the generations that follow. Trust that I am indeed weaving a beautiful narrative of reconciliation, marked not only by suffering but by unwavering grace. The heavens held their breath as the divine promise unfurled before Job's eyes, unveiling not only the depth of his trials but the eternal hope threaded through. As the sacred silence returned, Job found himself compelled to reflect on the overarching mystery, the delicate interplay between divine sovereignty and redemptive love. What treasures lay yet undiscovered, beyond the veil of his understanding? Would these moments of suffering contribute to the glory yet to be revealed? The profound questions lingered in the air, encircled by the promise of restoration, beckoning Job toward the depths of God's sovereign plan, a plan that would ultimately unite heaven and earth in an unbroken symphony of redemption. Job awaited with a heart full of anticipation, poised to witness the miraculous unfolding of a story filled with divine revelations that would resonate through the hearts of all who dared to trust in the Lord's unwavering grace. For beyond the horizon of his pain, lay an eternity woven together in the glory of God's faithfulness, beckoning forth a future brighter than he had ever dared to imagine.